Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be having a look at December's exceptional story, The Green King. As always, at the start of a new exceptional story, I encourage you to become an exceptional friend. Not only do you get access to these stories, you also get access to twice as many actions, a bigger card deck, more outfit slots, and access to the House of Chimes. Obviously there are spoilers ahead, but let's start with The Green King, an invitation in chartreuse. It arrives in a pale envelope. Your name and address are written in a mossy-hued ink. The details are correct to the letter, but the invitation is to a club you have never heard of. A group calling themselves the Old Pretenders. You are invited to dine at the Green King, London's most exclusive alehouse, in a fortnight's time. These old pretenders are, it seems, inviting you on behalf of the Green King himself. A faint watermark on the back of the envelope suggests this is the 6th such to be delivered. Ooh. If I was in the Stags, I would have had another option here, considering a possible connection to the Young Stags. You've heard of them before. An affiliate group of the Young Stags said to sponsor the activities of their younger protégés. But I have no idea. I haven't the foggiest. Who on earth are these people? The newspapers yield little of interest. Is it not always thus? Despite the invitation's boasts of exclusivity and influence, it would appear that the Old Pretenders enjoy a surfeit of former and famine. On the latter, they have neither a public record of membership nor any regular meeting place. One finds nowhere to sign up, no litanies of stag-like misdeeds, no Taylor-esque displays of fashion, no Sophian records of public service, nothing like the Parthenom's impeccable credentials. By all reckonings, they may as well not exist. Yet there it is, an invitation to dine 2 Sundays hence. Something falls out of the envelope. Further pages yellowing and hurriedly torn. Read the addendum. There are stipulations written in a crisp, legal hand. Towards the bottom of the invitation is a minute stipulation. Should you be unable to attend for whatsoever reason, you may submit a substitute for the Old Pretender's consideration. If, and only if, said substitute can be convinced to attend, of course. You also note that the invitation has been torn at the very bottom, as though something is missing. You examine the envelope to discover that this, too, has been tampered with. Someone has opened it before you. Feeling around inside the expensive paper, you find a collection of ragged pages torn from other sources. There is a ragged edge to the envelope. A fine knife has cut it open, allowing the insertion of other surplus documents. You find cuttings from the Gazette and an ominous tome of the less jolly sort of folklore. Well, let's start with the newspaper cuttings. Someone has gone to great trouble of placing them in front of you, after all. Several accounts of recent disappearances. A young constable, a promising journalist, and a newly ordained vicar. They are disparate aside from 2 points: the well-connected nature of the vanishees, and that each disappeared on a Sunday. The dates are circled in red ink, with a note in the margin reading, "Poor fools, unhappy fate." Despite the sparsity of the comment, you detect more scorn than pity from the anonymous writer. The relevance to you is not immediately apparent. Let's look at this book on folklore. or at least skim it. It looks rather dour, not to mention lengthy. Happily, chapter on fellowship has been highlighted in a deep red ink. It is called Making the Circle Round. It concerns the swearing of oaths, their properties of binding and sealing, joining and uniting. A king and his companions, forsworn to each other, strengthened their bonds and in so doing, each other. The notes are taken from the writings of a Mr. Percy Runcival. A biographical note in the margin reads, "The first pretender disappeared." Well, that concludes our researches. While the purpose of the evening is unclear, its procedures are set in your mind. The order, the number, and the oaths at evening's end. It's not hard to conclude that whoever intercepted your invitation was trying to send a warning. It is cloaked in mysticism, but the implication is clear. Something very unhappy befalls those who attend a Sunday dinner with the Old Pretenders Club. Which rather begs the question, who are these people? And why do they wish you harm? Normally, one has to have met you before attempting murder. The Old Pretenders, an exclusive dining society, has invited you to attend a supper, where they promise that you will drink wine as golden as sunlight and receive wisdom greater than Solomon. They cannot mean you any good. There is time between now and the appointed hour. It would be a mistake not to research your would-be hosts. It might even be fatal. And nothing is worse for digestion than premature death. So we have two options. We can track down the members of the Old Pretenders. The club is exclusive, but it is known. To find out what they want with you, it might be prudent to first learn who they are. Or we can investigate the Green Inn. The Green Inn is the only definite lead you have for activities of the Old Pretenders. The invitation is for 2 Sundays hence, but perhaps somebody is there this Sunday. Let's try and find the members. To attend a mysterious dinner invitation without first investigating one's hosts seems like a mistake. To arrive without ample material for blackmail seems like carelessness. The Old Pretenders lack clubhouse, register, or seemingly open membership. Tracking them down seems impossible, until it occurs to you to look into the ownership deeds of the Green Inn. There, you find 7 names, each of which belongs to a person of some import in the city. Okay, so we have a lot of options here. I think I will read them as we go through them. Let's start at the top. Look up the Endless Inspector. Who watches the watchman? By quirk of bureaucratic unaccountability, he does. He broods in an upper office, the terminus of official inspection and the nadir of every officer's career. He measures records with a ruler. Those that pass the centimetre mark are condemned. The rest go free. He believes in justice of an arbitrary and final nature. He has no friends beyond the club. Many have tried to dislodge him from his position. It is not possible to locate them now. Here we can look up the Deacon of St. Fiacus, a fixture of the institution, as immovable as its foundation stones, and as unremarkable as its storage cupboard. Every institution has a person like the Deacon, unobtrusive, unremarkable, and unobserved. The great matters of religion, the pomp and circumstance, the fates, charitable endeavours, and other dinner speeches, all of this is the bishop's domain. The deacon does not need to manage that. Instead, he concerns himself with the minutiae, the parish registers, the maintenance of the cellars. who has access and to which degree. There is also the matter of confession, a rite he convinced a previous bishop to reintroduce. He himself, of course, is competent to perform it. Perhaps this is a source of his elevated apartments and great personal mane. We can look up Percy Roncesvalles, the seventh name on the list, unadorned with title or epithet, unlike the rest, and also the author of that book. Uncovering information on Percival is easy. Somerset keeps his dates of matriculation and graduation, both in 1870s. He left behind a modest house and 2 loving parents, both now in the tomb colonies. He barely graduated, his dissertation being viewed as a product of unsound scholarship, and you are not permitted to see it. He owes his advancement, it seems, due to friends in high places. He was, however, a keen sailor, and in his will left behind 2 sharp boats, one now decommissioned due to an unerring instinct for always sailing east, regardless of route. These effects are all you find. Percy has been missing, presumed dead, for almost 30 years. Curiously, the purchase of the Green King, done partly in his name, was performed after his disappearance, though only by a month. We can look up the Grisly Justice, one of London's most notorious judges. She always finds guilty and sentences hanging without compunction. That it has lost its efficiency is no business of hers. She is a woman of formidable and unrelenting habit. Her social calendar is booked a year in advance. Her luncheons taken with an hourglass sat beside her steaming soup, and her leisure hour is badminton taken at unrecommended pace. The rest of her time is spent in her courtroom, where silence is broken only by muffled sobs, and at the execution yard, where her seat has a visible impression. She takes trainees once every 7 years. The opening is coveted, like the opening of the Covenant. None last the distance. Consider the beneficial academic. She sits content at the heart of a web of patronage that would make a Bavarian king blush. She resides in plush offices that straddle both Benthic and Somerset. This situation is permitted by the bestowal of favour, and in turn permits the acceleration of further bestowals. No student leaves her clutches without a sense, gently, carefully implied, that a debt is owed. A citation there, a recommendation to a committee there, a supervisee taken on. She never asks for anything in return. She doesn't need to. If not all her students publish, that can be no reflection on her. After all, she gives so much. And then finally we can investigate the vice-raddled critic and the towering actor. They are not officially lovers, but between them they set the pace for London's theatre. Who is in and, of course, who is out. He writes her reviews in shades of iodine and strychnine. She bellows defiance in revival after revival. The Gazette is full of their gossip, circulated by doting colleagues, to keep alive the great affair that keeps rears on upholstered seats. The trick is to avoid taking a side. That is their game, to lure a new reporter or a bright-eyed Ingene into their confidence. And then, in some cellar bar or other, long after closing, Convince them to share what they really think. This is always their undoing. Occasionally, the bruised recipient salvages a career, but sometimes they do not. Okay, so we can draw our conclusions. Who the hell are these people? The Old Pretenders form a club that does not admit new members. Its membership has remained constant at 6, and only 6, and indeed the same 6, for decades. Yet they recruit. So far, a journalist, a constable, a priest, and an artist have gone missing. Your investigation is number 6. Your invitation is number 6. The Green King hosts meetings with prospective newcomers, wined, dined, and never all at once. Each initiate is invited by name, the invitation to the club that does not admit members. Something isn't adding up. Now it is time to investigate the Green Inn. The Green Inn is the only definite lead you have for the activities of the Old Pretenders. The invitation is for 2 Sundays hence, but perhaps someone is there this Sunday. The location on the invitation is clear as crystal. Threadneedle Street, and halfway, in 2 weeks' time, Sunday. You are not to arrive before or after. The invitation is firm on the point, yet if you are to learn anything more about the Old Pretenders or their reasons for summoning you here, it seems prudent to investigate. The Green King Inn scowls at you from behind yellowing curtains and clouded windows. One of those London establishments that announces its prestige through ostentatious display of its meagreness. An 18th century facade haphazardly renovated, where gloomy lights are dimly visible behind smoked glass. A sign hanging above the door depicts a green man, crowned and grinning. There are no other signs of life. So we can either try the door, there ought to be a meeting occurring, a secret meeting, which suggests someone would be on hand to keep the door. Or we can sneak around the back. Why wait when surprise might beat you at your back and gust you straight into the schemes of these Old Pretenders? Let's just try the door. You knock. There is no answer. No footsteps hurrying to the door. No discreet whispers or hushed chatter as the occupants wait for the intruder to leave on their own good time. It sounds quite as though there is no one there at all. It is unusual for a pub in London to go unoccupied for any length of time, least of all on a mild evening such as this. Peering through the windows, you spy mouldering antimacassars, geological layers of dust, and a lone candle on the bar, almost burnt down. Beside it rests a scholar's cap. Abandoned. I guess we'll be sneaking round the back. Behind the Green King malingers a collection of refuge sacks. Each contains discarded clothes, most charred beyond recognition, and all in varying degrees of depredation. All fine once. Then, from the back door, a movement. You nestle between a judge's spider-haunted wig and a faded doctorate gown. A woman, with the jaded air of an art critic, steps out, carrying a fresh sack. She deposits it amidst the rest. As she sets it down, a fine policeman's badge glints from within. There is something on her hands. It might be blood, if not for the golden hue. Then she is gone, back into the king, and whatever befell the invitee therein. The Green King appears abandoned, but someone is clearly here. You are not the only person who has been invited to join the Old Pretenders. If your invitation is the last, and an invitation to dine is every Sunday, then we have two options. We can either look for someone inside. Someone has been here on a Sunday. Have they also been invited? Theoretically, they are still here. Whatever becomes of them may be what the Pretenders intend to happen to you. We can leave. Best not tip your hands to your hosts. Curiosity killed the cat. We're going in. Amidst the bundles of burnt rags and rotting clothing, you uncover a new academic gown. And new, of course, being relative in the fashions of academia, but the patches on the elbows leave no doubt. This is the fourth invitees. If you assume that this belongs to the person invited here 2 Sundays before yourself, then there, in a ragged pocket on the inside of the lining, you find a slip of paper. An invitation to dine at the Green King on this date and at this time. And there at the bottom, a correspondence sigil followed by an oath. Into veracity, one for all. Strange. Your invitation contains no such passphrase. As you ponder this discrepancy, you hear footsteps. Someone is coming. Let's eavesdrop. In for a penny. You huddle against the cold stones of the Green King as a troop of well-dressed men and women spill out. They are arguing in peevish tones. Very poor show, one says. Didn't even have the words perfect. Had to step in there. Dashed embarrassing. Shouldn't have let him in if he didn't know the words. And we printed them on the page, clear as day. Clearly he was improperly taught. But what worried me was the king himself. I thought I sensed rebellion. His flourishment was decidedly sulky, a woman says, her tone clipped. When we have the last one, I will make sure she does not give the king opportunity to do anything but what she is bid. We have the clerk in hand, at least. The voices fade as the fog swallows this august gathering. But you now know what might have been torn from your invitation. As you turn away from the Green King, you feel yourself being observed. A prickle on the back of your neck, a bead of sweat trickling into your collar, a casual blow of scented smoke onto your person. A woman in an unfashionable gown of crimson velvet is watching you. She smokes a small pipe and smiles like a gunshot, gives you a meaningful glance, and then turns away. We can either ignore her, her business is her own, as is yours, walk away, or we can follow her. Why is she watching you? Perhaps she knows something about the Green King. Curiosity, we're going to follow her. She watches the Green King for some time, until all the candles burn low. Then she makes off through the fog. You are her shadow, slipping through the gaslit streets, sometimes following by sight, sometimes by the scent of her smoke. The trail ends at the gates of an old sandstone manor house hung with dead ivy. Its gates indicate it has stood since well before the fall of London. Marshalsea House. The gates lock behind her. It is clear she was watching the Green King. A lookout? One of the pretenders? Or like yourself, a fellow invitee? Time will tell. If you make it that far. So let's consider what we know. Why have you been invited to join this exclusive club? Why do they bother to invite anyone at all? You pace your parlour, idly pinning pieces of paper to a worn corkboard. as you go. It is not a matter of replacement. The grisly justice, the endless inspector, and all the rest have been in their posts for decades. Each is from the rarefied upper echelons of London's society, children of the aristocracy. Moneyed, Anglican, unreachable. Nor is it a matter of apprenticeship, however long. Each member takes on new protégés after the invitation. Indeed, the invitations seem to come but once in 7 years. After which the recipients are neither seen nor heard from again. A club of unusual appetite, then. But even murder in the Neath is not so simple. People come back. Disappearance, rather than death, is the greater mystery. Further investigation is required, but one thing is certain. The motive behind your own invitation can only have been malice. As you consider this unhappy conclusion, there is a knock upon your door. An invitation anonymously delivered in red ink on green cards. It reads, "Meet at Dante's. Yours, largely sincerely, your mysterious benefactor." And with that, I think I'm going to end the first episode here before we meet this red velvet lady with very fantastic artwork. I very much like this art style. Very fantastic and intriguing indeed. This seems like another interesting story and I'm interested to learn more. But thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you again to the members of the channel. It really does help me keep the channel going. Thank you for the coffee supporters and all of the people around. It is greatly appreciated and it means the world to me. But as always, I'll see you next time.